Good afternoon, folks. Just give me a wee minute to sort out Facebook. And then we'll introduce a special guest for today. Right, that's Facebook sorted out, folks. So, the special guest for the day is the other bloody Davy. Right, remember, folks, Saturday morning, or Saturday at noon, David and I are hopefully, if David can make it, or if not, I'll be interviewing Naz Anas Ma, who is the candidate for the Westminster election for Dunfermline and Dollar. And he's already an elected official in the Dunfermline and Dollar area. He's a councillor in Fife Council. So we'll have a nice chat with him and find out what his ambitions are and how he sees things going forward. Okay. Right, David, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a wee bit of a climb, but fine, I'm here. That's what I can
Class action says, no, he's back. He talks nonsense. Class action, class action.
The only thing I can say is that I'm back, and some of the nasty drugs that I was given to deal with the pain are no longer. So that's fine. And if you imagine that now I've got a lot of climbing to do to actually pick up and get my head into what's happening everywhere. So today, largely, I'll be acting as a bouncing board for David. Okay? So, right.
You need a wee bit of time to catch up, David, obviously.
Yep.
Right, as I say, going to interview with Naz on Saturday, folks. The notifications are already out there. Hopefully you'll come along and listen to what the gentleman's got to say and enjoy a wee bit of back and forth between us. Now, David, let's get into it, shall we? We're up there the 100 mark. So, First Minister Humza Yousaf, look, we're in the right fucking page here.
Don't say that, for goodness sake.
Right, here we go. The two Davies, the 21st of the 3rd, 2024.
The first one is an absolute stoter. It really is, honestly. When I heard this, I went, that's wonderful. Right, carry on, Dave. Give us the details.
Hold on to turn these bloody sound in my mic down a wee bit. I've turned yours up and now I've turned mine down a bit. Stooshy breaks out between the Scottish Government and Westminster over the Scottish Government's ban on Israeli Air Force flights landing at Prestwick Airport. Now, the truth of the matter is, of course, David, that airports and airspace is reserved, supposedly. But Prestwick Airport is publicly owned. And when a flight went through there in February, I think it was, destined for Israel from an American airbase, it was worked out with the people who work there. This thing's carrying fucking arms.
Yeah.
So after the plane was put through, because it was wrapped up in a different wrapper, after the plane was put through, the trade unions informed the Scottish Government the airport staff only willing to handle flights coming in for the Israeli Defence Force Air Force. Right. Now, of course, the Scottish Government then had to inform Westminster, don't send any flights here because the ground crew just won't fucking touch them.
Yeah.
And this leads to Ben Wallace, the previous Defence Minister, saying that the Scottish Government are acting like fucking jumped up petty foreign secretaries and basically telling them, get back in your box job, foreign policy is reserved. But what this Ben Wallace doesn't seem to get is, it's the actual people at the airport who are refusing to handle these flights. Now, we've seen this before with Maggie Thatcher in Pinochet, with the Rolls-Royce workers at East Kilbride back in the 70s.
Yeah.
Early 80s, late 70s, 79, wasn't it?
Aye, some of that. And it was the engines. It was the actual engine. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's the very same thing. It's the workforce refusing to touch these flights if they come into Prestwick.
Yeah. Yeah.
So basically, the trade unions have told the Scottish government, look, these fucking things come here, they're staying here because they're not going any further.
Yeah.
We ain't touching them.
Yeah.
So obviously, the Scottish government's had to make the Westminster government aware of it. The Westminster government have now had to say to Israel, don't send any flights, and America, don't send any flights via Prestwick because the ground crew there will no service these flights.
You know, it's now at a stage where definitely Israel have isolated themselves, but now it's America that is joining in, and they are being isolated.
Well, we'll get a wee bit more of that, David, when we get to the situation with Israel and Gaza and what's going on there.
Yeah.
But as I say, this sushi isn't really between the Scottish government and Westminster, the way people are trading the press. It's actually between Westminster and the trade unions of fucking Prestwick.
But it's lovely. It really is nice to see.
We've seen it in Australia, we've seen it in Spain.
Yeah, we saw it in was it Rotterdam and all the rest of it.
We've seen it in South Africa where they've shut their fucking ports to them and all.
Yep, they're refusing to deal with the ships that are coming through carrying arms and all the rest of it, right? Sweden, Sweden, they've refused to send replacement parts.
Manufactured 35,
right? This is wonderful.
A wee bit more of what's happening out there in the world when it comes to Israel and Gaza, when we get to Israel and Gaza, the Ukraine war at the end.
Problem is,
people
we're seeing all this. This is brilliant, right? But the governments around the world have been too slow at realising what's going on. We'll talk about it later, but leave it at the moment.
As I say, this has been portrayed as a situation between the Scottish government and the Westminster government. Truth be told, folks, you're being lied to in the press. It's a situation between the trade unions and Westminster, and we've seen this before with Maggie and Punishy and the Rolls-Royce engines.
Yep.
And well done to the people at Prestwick. People power will work.
Yep.
Continue the ban on Israeli goods.
Yep.
And let's bring Israel to its fucking knees. If our imperial masters won't do it, let's do it ourselves.
Aye. That's the way. Well done, guys. Well done.
This one's brilliant, David.
Yeah, no, hang on a second. I just hope that somebody knows, any of the staff down at Prestwick, that both David and I want to give them a good slap in the back. Well done, really, well done. It's like the Houthis blooming throwing missiles at ships going up the Red Sea. They've won. The Americans have lost. The UK have lost because it's the insurance companies are saying, no, you're not sending any boats up there because if you do, they're not covered by insurance. There you go, right?
Yep. Anyway, let's move on. Keir Starmer throws Anna Sala under a bus for good this time.
Go on then, explain.
And by the way, Ian Murray did the same thing, but I haven't bothered with that. Ian Murray's actually taking a mad fucking right-wing think tank as part of the fringes of Labour. Give him a second D to work on his election campaign because he doesn't trust the Scottish Labour folk. But we'll get back to that. We're going to ignore that one, and we're going to talk about Starmer and Thatcher and his front bench and their admiration of Thatcher. Talk about throwing Scottish Labour under a bus. Leslie Riddoch put it best actually in the press. She said, fuck. She said, that'll give you a warning about voting for Labour in Scotland. Imagine fucking, hey, David Lammy, Maggie Thatcher was a visionary.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
Do you want to know something? It's by doing that, for a lot of the electorate, they are committing political suicide.
For here in Scotland, anyway, they're definitely committing political suicide.
Maggie,
that's why Riddoch's like that. What? Fuck! Labour.
Maggie decimated huge communities, right? Huge sections of communities. And it's like, these people are going to go, what? You're backing what Maggie Thatcher did? She was was a visionary, you know.
They're actually going, but they're reinventing Thatcherism for this particular election and economic policy going forward. Right, and they're talking about realigning the supply chain. We know what that means. That means bare private sector in the public sector.
Yeah.
And what they don't seem to realise is this isn't going to create growth because there's fuck all left to sell, except for the NHS. Everything else has been sold.
Aye. Yep.
Anyway, but when you get right to it, Wesley Riddoch coined it rightly. Thatcher was a hated figure here in Scotland. We still celebrate her death each year.
Yeah. I mean, the video of people blooming dancing in Freedom Square.
That's right. She died, aye. Ding dong, the witch is dead.
Yeah.
I mean, what the fuck? What was Starmer? Rachel Reeves, David Lammy, and West Street and talking about when they were talking about Thatcher was a visionary.
Yeah.
Wow.
I can actually imagine that in England there will be certain sections of the community, if you like. So maybe they're betting on that. Will say, "Oh, we like Maggie Thatcher. We liked what she was about. We liked the character that she was." And maybe they're going to try and pick up votes on that. But in Scotland, it's political suicide.
Yeah, David. Starmer's realised he doesn't need Scotland. So he basically threw Scottish Labour under a bus.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then they get the insult of the one Labour MP in Scotland going to a think tank on the fringes of the Labour movement for a second day to run his campaign because he doesn't trust Scottish Labour to run his campaign. What the fuck is that mob doing there saying to the Scottish cohort? Basically what they're saying is get your fuck, you're finished.
If anybody is part of Scottish Labour in any way whatsoever, the Labour till I die mob, right? You're fools. You're fools if you continue with Labour. You did us damage during the referendum 2014. I grant you that, and you got away with an awful lot. Now it's time where you actually pick up your banners and throw them back at blooming Labour in England. Because that's what it is. It's English Labour.
Yeah, the problem with Labour is it's full of fucking Tories, according to Frank. So it definitely is true. And we'll get your Prime Minister's questions in a minute, but I just thought Starmer really doesn't care. He doesn't care about the MPs here in Scotland. He doesn't need them. He knows he doesn't need them. So he's going to say what he has to say. He win votes in England and fuck everywhere else.
Yeah. Well, George, we'll get to that. And
we'll get to that one and all.
That's our
right,
that's
David. You and I discussed this next one, and you had a different perspective on it, and I was angry about it. And that was Scottish. The SNP have been called Nazis because of their slogan saying vote SNP to make Scotland Tory free.
Yeah. It wasn't it. I just understand. I gave him a box of chocolates and some flowers later on to actually make up for it.
I mean, I'm a David Ranton's what I do. And what really angered me was the Call K programme and the video that was put, the cut that the text that she wrote.
My only criticism was that you did turn it into an angry response, whereas I was trying to say to you the best response to Call K or whatever she's called is to blooming laugh at the whole situation. Because
I take it seriously when the Broadcasting Corporation treats the people of Scotland as fucking idiots.
Yeah, I know.
The question being posed, David, was where did these 700,000 Tory voters that voted Tory at the last election, and where did they vote if they to be no given a say? Listen, you and I understand how democracy works, but a lot of knuckle draggers out there don't. The Tories have still put up candidates. It's up to the Scottish electorate whether they want to wipe the Tories off the political map or not. But of course, it comes out what the real problem is. They know that once the one cheek of the establishment arse has been wiped out here in Scotland, the second cheek will follow, especially as Starmer's not going to be any better than fucking what we've got in place at the moment. Because people don't really seem to understand what happened at the last budget, where they baked in 18 billion worth of cuts going forward to 2029. And there's nothing Starmer can do about it. The money's already been spent.
Yep.
The money was spent on national insurance cuts.
He is effectively walking into a black hole as regards that. But we'll get to that later. All right, we've got.
Anyway, the accusation is that the SNP are anti-democratic. That's not how it works, folks. How it works, and this is what got me angry. The Conservative Party will still put up 6 candidates here in Scotland. That's how they intend to put up. They don't even tend to stand in East Kilbride, where the SNP woman, Karen, whatever her name is, walked the floor to the Tories for the SNP. They've told her, we're not defending your seat.
Yeah.
She wasted her time and ended her political career walking the floor. Yeah. And the Tories in there don't care. They're going to stand 6 candidates. If the people in Scotland decide not to vote for these 6 candidates, and a number that's going to get them elected, then the Tories will be wiped out. That is what happens in a first past the post election.
Yep.
The idea what they were treating the Scottish people was being stupid and we didn't understand how democracy worked. That's what angered me. Betraying the fact that we were going to gag 700,000 people and outlaw their thoughts. The only people that's outlawing thoughts and intentions and groups, as I said in my wee video, is that mob of Westminster.
Well, as you said yourself, where are they going to go? But what they're going to do is they're going to go and vote Labour.
That's exactly what they're going to do.
Yeah, so...
Polling shows the Tories are going to be wiped out whether the SNP come up with a slogan or no.
Oh, Alistair! That's lovely. 50 quid. I mean, that's a good donation. Thank you, sir. Alistair,
I know, it's a few 50s he's put in. He's been putting in a few quid lately.
And he's put a nice. Can I read that out?
Sure.
On funds, I'm glad to see David Milligan is back and getting better, and keep up with the excellent work, guys. I'll tell you what, Alistair, I've built my wee gymnasium and I'm making use of it. So I'm going to try and get things better. I want to do a march. That's what I want to do. I want to be fit enough to do a march. So thank you for that, Alistair. Anyway, sorry.
The accusation is that the SNP are anti-democratic. The Scottish people will decide who's elected. And this slogan, by the way, what they don't seem to realise is this slogan was only targeted at 6 seats. 6.
Yeah.
The rest of the slogan, the actual slogan is vote SNP for independence. This particular slogan only applies to 6 particular seats in Scotland.
Yeah.
But the way it was being portrayed in the press was that the SNP are anti-democratic and want to gag Conservative voters in Scotland. That's not what's happened. And that really made me angry because I don't like it when the BBC treat our people like fucking idiots. We're one of the most politically savvy nations in Europe, if not the most politically savvy nation in Europe. You know, and to have the BBC treat us like fucking idiots and try and treat the people of Scotland as if they don't understand how the first past the post system works. It really, really angered me. And I'm really fed up with the BBC and treating people like that. They've been doing it for years of what's reserved and what's devolved.
Here's another one coming in.
Thanks, Eddie.
Gillies, £10. Glad to see you back, Davey. Thank you.
I haven't been anywhere, Eddie, for fuck's sake. Where have you been? Oh, you talking about you, David?
He's talking about me,
yeah. Anyway, hey, I'm going to play the clip of this one, David, just for fun. Listening
yes.
to one because
thank you.
It is good fun, after all. Hold on, I'll get it all. And this is Stephen Flynn ripping the piss. And this is a way to the Thatcher thing, but in the piss out of ripping the piss out of the Tories and Labour Party. Wait a minute, I'll find this. Here we go.
To be honest with you, Stephen Flynn at the moment is one guy that particularly impresses me every time he stands up to speak. He also impressed me on the Question Time the other week there, right? But against that female at the opposite side, talking about the Gaza situation as if well, they're getting food and they're getting all the rest of it. Talking a load of shite. Okay.
Right, you ready for this one? Yeah, you ready for a minute of comedy gold, folks? Now, I'm not worried about putting this video up because it's in the National, and credit to the National. I subscribe to the National, so I'm not worried about copyright infringement. So here we go, folks. This one is way worth watching. If you haven't seen it, this is class. Oh, hold on. Go to the right page.
Mr. Speaker, with his backbenchers looking for a unity candidate placing, which of the numerous born against Thatcherites on the Labour front bench does he believe best fits the bill?
Well, Mr. Speaker, it was surprising to hear all this talk about the 1970s from the Shadow Chancellor in particular. But then,
of course, Mr. Speaker, there's a serious point to be made here because the IFS have warned of the conspiracy of silence which exists between the Labour Party and the Conservative Party when it comes to £18 billion of looming public sector cuts. Indeed, just last night, they actually outlined that the fiscal rules of the Labour Party and the Conservative Party are in effect identical. So with such continuity on offer, Mr. Speaker, the public are right to be anti-Westminster, aren't they?
Absolute class, Stephen.
Going for it disappears off my board. Dylan Kane, 199. BBC can shove their TV license up their arses. You really need to get into that word. They need to shove the TV license up their arses. That's it, you know.
Hey, thanks, Eddie. Hey, okay, glad you're there, the other Davy.
So, Eddie, thank you.
But no, that's just pure gold, isn't it? And it really is. And it also talks about the 18 billion quid worth of cuts that are baked into the last budget. There's nothing Labour.
Do you see the effective side of using a bit of comedy to make a point? And Stephen Flynn did it really well. You know, he hammers through some really painful points there at the Labour Party, the Labour front bench. Yeah. Oh
yes. Aye.
So.
Which of the Thatcherites in the front bench of Labour that you fancy to replace you, Mr. Sunak? Absolute class. Yeah. Absolute class. Hey. But PMQs once again was just another punching fucking Judy show. It really was.
Yeah.
You know, for Rishi Sunak's side, everything's wonderful. We're pumped the economy's turned the corner, crashing into a recession, of course.
There's one from John, the truck driving legend.
Yep.
Talk about throwing the core voters under the bus with Kid Starver and co fighting over themselves for being the pro-Thatcher, especially on the 40th anniversary of the miners' strike. Shame, shame, shame.
Absolutely correct.
Yep.
Absolutely correct.
Yeah.
As I say, PMQ is just it's more a show than anything else.
Yeah.
You know, it's theatre. It's pure theatre.
But it's the effectiveness of using the comedy trick, and it gets people to remember the real facts of what's going on. You've got a front bench there that love Maggie, and up here, when she died in Freedom Square, we were all blowing, going, "The witch is dead," and dancing.
There was a bloody party in George Square that night.
Yeah.
Ding dong, the witch is dead. Rang out across Scotland. Never mind Glasgow. You know, Dundee, Edinburgh, Aberdeen. They all had celebrations to celebrate her death. Cruel as that might sound.
Do you want to know something? In a situation like that, where you've got someone that is an evil, you can only call that an evil leader, then when that leader dies, and the people that have been hurt by that leader react in that way, you can't blame them. You simply cannot blame them.
I mean, I remember having a discussion with my father at the time, and I was celebrating her death myself, and him and I had an argument about it. He says, mate, she's got kids. How's her family feel? And I said, I don't give a fuck. Ask the miners how their families felt when they were fucking couldn't eat.
Correct.
Ask the Lanarkshire population how they feel after 2-3 generations of fuck all happening in Lanarkshire when she shut down the steelworks. Ask about the decimated communities right across the UK that still haven't recovered the deindustrialisation without a plan.
I know, and the one thing that I managed to pull out at that time, in 2012, I managed to pull out that any oil exploration was taken out of the frame by Thatcher.
Yep.
Because of the American subs going up the Holy Loch. And it was the Americans that complained that stopped that oil exploration. Our shipbuilding capability right the way down the Clyde were begging for more work to keep them open. Had that oil exploration taken place, those shipyards would be open today.
Aye, DJ Martin says that he's an ex-miner and he hopes he burns in hell. And Stephen Kelly's pointing out that the UK is now the second most miserable place on the planet to live. I think number one's Uzbekistan. So there you have it. Right, now this next one is an interesting story, David, considering. I mean, I did a public service announcement a couple of shows back about the hate crime bill being brought forward and coming into effect in April 1st this year. Now, since the press have been given that this is an end to free speech in Scotland. Now, I've already explained what the hate crime bill does, but I'm going to go a wee bit further if you don't mind, David.
Just stop you there, right? It seems as if people are not getting the message on this, especially Dross. Yeah?
Yes, now that's interesting because Professor Adam Tomlinson, as you know, he's the John Widgery-McCall Professor of Public Law at Glasgow University. Now, Professor Tomlinson was an MSP, a Conservative MSP, but he was also the legal eagle for the Scottish Parliament when this bill was being written.
Yeah.
He's come out and blasted the press and the mainstream media today for the crap that's been spoken about this being an end to free speech.
Yeah.
Now, it is not, as Mr. Tomlinson points out, it's not a hate crime to misgender someone from the way they appear. So let's say that you're transgender and you're a male and you present as a female. It's no a hate crime to point out that actually, pre-op, technically they're still male. I think that's how Adam was meaning it.
Yeah.
But with this, but just so that people understand, to say, to encourage hate against a group of people is a hate crime. To misgender somebody as an individual is not a hate crime. To misrepresent an individual's age is not a hate crime, but to stir up hate against a certain age group is a hate crime.
Yeah.
And it's the same with religions. Now, what I want the viewers here to understand so that they can tell people elsewhere, do you know that since 2006, stirring up religious hate in England's been a crime? Since 2008, stirring up hate against an age group or a gender group in England has been a crime. And right across Europe, these things are crimes. What the hate bill does, the hate crime bill here in Scotland does, is it brings, as I explained at the time, these three groups that are specified, and that is gendered groups, sexuality gender groups, age groups, and religious groups. It brings them into the same sort of protections as you would get if it was race hate.
So effectively, I take it that's the whole of the UK is now covered by this legislation. But is there anywhere else that's got similar legislation?
right across Europe, to be honest with you, David. Right across Europe, we've got this.
Well,
People in these categories have got equality protections right across Europe. Scotland was actually the outlier.
Yeah.
But rather than have two different bills like they've got in England, we're doing it in one bill, the hate crime bill.
Yeah.
But this doesn't kill off free speech. It doesn't say that a person can't speak out against a gender, an age group, or a religious group, as long as they're not stirring up hate against them.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
As long as they're not encouraging other people to attack these groups.
Yeah.
This doesn't affect freedom of speech whatsoever. Right. And as Professor Tompkins points out today to the press, chuck it. This is the bloody truth. What you're doing is lies and propaganda. And you hear that coming from the good professor. And then at First Minister's Questions today, Dougie Ross tries to present the hate crime bill as stifling free speech. Did Dougie not see the press this morning? When Professor Tompkins, if somebody used to be one of his MSPs, is explaining to these muppets, it does no such thing. It doesn't threaten free speech. And here we have Dougie and Muppet pulling the same fish in the Parliament today. This is starting to get boring, to be honest with you, David.
No, well explained, and I thank you for that, because what we need to do is we need to put this to bed. This is beyond stupidity of what's been happening online. Yeah.
Okay, it is beyond stupidity.
Yeah.
You know, it is beyond stupidity. As long as you're not stirring up hate against a gender group, an age group, or a religious group.
Hang on, David. Sorry, Duncan. You're absolutely right, Adam Tompkins. It's just we have to remember lots of things going into a programme, and we sometimes stumble on names. Adam Tompkins. I'm an engineer. If everybody had a serial number, I'd remember it for the rest of my days.
Sorry, you got his name right. Let's go look. Where are we? Professor Tompkins, he explains it perfectly well. Are we going to move on? Aye, we better, because time's moving on.
It's just that I'm quite looking forward to getting into the table tennis section.
Oh, the section.
Well, that's what it used to be called, isn't it? Yeah, go on. This is maybe an interesting thing, because there's been so many bits of legislation and amendments and all the rest of it, as this has gone between the House of Commons and the House of Lords, right? It's eventually going to go through. The Tories are going to get this through. But when you look at the numbers that are actually going to go, and I'm talking about Rwanda here, it's laughable. It really is.
Anyway, on the debate on Tuesday, whenever we were expecting Sunak to take a spanking off some of his MPs that didn't, they all vote behind them. All 10 amendments to the laws were voted down shamelessly.
Yeah.
And that includes the amendment which would put jurisdiction over whether a person should go to Rwanda or not back in the hands of the courts rather than the hands of the Home Secretary.
Yeah.
That was put down and all.
Yeah.
This law are bypassing the judiciary, and they are actually creating a situation by legislation which doesn't exist. But that's beside the point. What they're doing is basically saying somewhere's safe because the law sitting here in the UK says it's safe, when the fact is it isn't fucking safe. It's fantasy stuff. But it's now back in the Lords, and Sunak didn't get a bloody nose. And as we know, moving on again, Sunak was facing the 1922 committee on Wednesday evening to explain his vision going forward and to see if it's going to lead to any more than. I've been told it was only 20 letters that were in to Sir Graham Brady.
Right.
So apparently he survived the Rwanda vote. He survived the 1922 committee, and as we now know, it looks like it's going to be an October-November election.
Yeah, they'll get the statement out. Yeah, they'll get the statement out at that time, and hopefully in their eyes, Mr. Hunt will have found more money stuffed down the back of the city that he can actually sprinkle amongst the.
Actually, David, I actually think this is a ploy to cripple the next government. They've already baked in 18 billion worth of cuts. If he can find a few quid in the back of the sofa to do it again, it'll be 25 billion quid worth of cuts.
Yeah.
Well, 9 and 9, sorry. So let's add another 9 on to 18. So it'll be 27 billion quid worth of cuts.
I'm going to make a prediction here. I predict that the Labour, if they get into number 10, won't last more than a couple of years, because they will be forced to make huge increases in tax, personal tax, right, and tax on businesses. The proper corporation tax.
Right.
And what will happen is there'll be a massive retaliation against that. There'll just be, and eventually it'll be a vote of no confidence.
And on the Rwanda, well, Frank's quite right. Rwanda has publicly stated that they won't take anybody if they think it breaks international law. And it bloody well does.
Yeah.
So 500 million quid up the wall. They're not taking anybody and they're sending refugees here.
Yeah.
And the other point that was being made there about the lateness of the election, it's absolutely, it's a valid point. If it's in the winter, if it's in at the end of fall, when the weather's bad and the nights are dark, you're going to get less of a turnout. And that would be to the advantage of the Tories.
Of course it will. Yeah.
You know. So, as I say, but Sunak survived so far. Let's see who the Muppet is, shall we? Don't know who it was this time. It was one of the daft. I had a phone call the other day, never realised it was one of the daft numbers, and I answered it. It was somebody telling me I'd won something in an internet competition. I'd entered. Fuck off, I didn't enter any competition. But so Sunak has survived, and it looks as if he's going to hang it out to the winter.
Yeah, without doubt. Yeah.
So you and I have got it wrong, because it's Jeremy Hunt that let it slip on ITV that's what we're thinking about.
If our prediction had to hold, Sunak would have had to come out and make a statement at the front door of number 10 Downing Street about an election on or before the 26th of March.
That's right, because it's minimum 5 weeks.
That's right. So it's not impossible that it could happen, right? But we don't think it's going to happen now. We think it's definitely going to be an October-November election.
Hold on, who's this? SNP are destroying Scotland. He needs jailed. The SNP are destroying Scotland, tic-tac-toe. Are they? That's why you get cheaper council tax than anybody else. That's why you need prescription charges, no university tuition fees. You don't like any of these things, tic-tac-toe? Fucking pay for them, you muppet. Oh, general election, 24th of December. Aye, that'd be a cracker, so it went, Frank. Oh, dear. And remember, folks, for this election, you will need voter ID, and you can get it online.
Yes.
You can get it online. Just type into your search engine, voter ID, and it will take you to a government website where you can actually take a picture for your webcam, fill out your details, and they will send you a voter ID certificate.
If you are in the situation where you don't have any form like a passport or a driving license or whatever, right, you must get this voter ID that you can get online, because otherwise you're going to be turned away. And what a disaster.
Or you can plenty of time apply for a postal vote.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But were the postal votes secure in 2014? I don't know. Do you?
Nah. Oh, tic-tac-toe, it appears doesn't understand the hate crime bill. The hate crime bill just brings Scotland into line with England and Wales and the rest of Europe. It was appeared, tic-tac-toe, that you haven't been listening. All it does is give the same protections to age groups, gender groups, and religious groups as what race groups get. That's all it does. It doesn't impair free speech, nothing. If you don't understand that, then go and have a look at what Professor Tompkins has had to say about it. And remember, he was a law officer in the Holyrood Parliament when this bill was going through. And he's a Tory. All right? So there you go. The hate crime bill does nothing to endanger free speech in Scotland. It just brings Scotland in line with England, Wales, and the rest of bloody Europe. Don't give tic-tac-toe a hard time. If the guy doesn't understand the legislation, that's fair. We'll try and explain it to him. Don't give him a hard time. But if he thinks that the hate crime bill is going to somehow ruin Scotland, it hasn't happened to ruin England and Wales. It hasn't happened to ruin Europe. And England and Wales, it took 2 bills to do it. We're only doing it in 1 bill. Simple as that. And the chief legal advisor at the Scottish Parliament at the time this was going through was Tory MSP Professor Tompkins, or Tompkins, whatever one it is. I believe it's Tompkins. Yeah. Right, anyway, so there you go. If you don't understand the legislation, tic-tac-toe, you can always jump onto the Scottish government website and read it for yourself.
So we were discussing the Rwanda bill, right?
Aye.
It will get passed, and certain people will end up on a plane, on a flight to Rwanda, and what will happen is the Tories will jump and dance for joy at the fact that eventually it has happened, right? And they'll use it as a wee victory.
Aye.
That they can push to their own electorate and say, there you are, we did it, right? But then we be coming back and saying, how many are going? And actually get the number out there and realise that they spent all this time and all that money to send a couple of 100 people, is it, across to Rwanda. That's it. And that also, don't forget, there's another side of that bit of legislation that lets the people from Rwanda come here. So whilst they're stopping wee boats coming across the channel, there's people in Rwanda saying, oh, Britain looks all right, you know. Well, we're about to get attacked for the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And
apparently I'm doing a wee bit, David, but that's neither here nor there. It will flare up again. There's always trouble in the region. That's neither here nor there. As Frank Halligan has pointed out, the Rwandan government has told the UK, we're going to have a look at this, and if we think it breaks international law, we're not accepting anybody. They've got 500 million quid in their pocket. No accepting anybody's an easy option.
You can imagine if we've got your money now.
MC, you're right. The hate crime law is to stop people inciting violence against groups. That's correct. That's all it does. It doesn't hamper free speech or nothing. But I don't really want to keep you into it. And people don't be rude to tic-tac-toe. If he doesn't understand legislation, there's not much we can do except for trying to explain it to him. You know. Whatever. Right, let's move on for Sunak surviving in the Rwanda bill to inflation in the Bank of England holds interest rates at a 5.25%.
What does that say to you? We're being told every day on the BBC or whatever that, oh look, inflation is coming crashing way down. And the Bank of England, who have got an interest rate of 5.25%, where everybody was looking at them and expecting there to be a wee reduction today. The Bank of England board did not do that because they don't believe the figures that are being put out. Sorry, a correction. They don't believe what's being done to the basket of goods that the people, the government use to actually make up the inflation.
We went through it. Some of the stuff on it's absolutely mental. We went through it yesterday, didn't we, David?
Yeah.
Now, the thing about inflation, folks, Core rate inflation sitting at 4.3%. Base rate inflation sitting at 3.4%. Food price inflation is still running at 11.1%, according to the latest figures issued by the Office for National Statistics. Now, the problem with these figures is the two most expensive things that people have in their budget isn't factored in: energy, rent, and mortgage. So the figures will always be skewed as long as these things are not factored in. Now, apparently, Tic Tac Toe is telling us that Christ Thralls podcast and Funky Peppers from Wales are saying different things about the hate crime bill here in Scotland. Nobody really cares what some religious nut job and somebody in Wales is saying about the hate crime bill. Tic Tac Toe, please go and read it and then educate yourself. And people, stop having a go, please. It's just not worth having a go. The best thing you can say to people who don't understand the piece of legislation is go and look at it. Mr. Tic Tac Toe here can type, so he can certainly read. He should be going to make his own opinion of it rather than taking what the press has to say about it. That's how David and I come to our conclusions. We go to source, and then we look at what other commentators are saying, and we come to our own conclusions. And that is the best way to do it. That's why we don't put up many videos or articles.
Oh, for quite right. Chocolate up 50%, no egg for me then.
Davies, do you know that the cocoa is running at 6,618 quid a ton? A ton! Wow! Hey.
Look, if you imagine, if you had to make up figures based on a basket of items that will end up with a certain figure, if you're in charge, if you're the guy in charge of doing that, if on your desk is you've got a choice of what you can do, right, or what you can actually, is vinyl records going to be an important thing that's going to be on your desk? Is it really?
I'm laughing at that. Vinyl records. Vinyl records. Who the hell's got a record player? Who the hell's got a CD player? We all Steam music.
Yeah, that's that.
And yet that's in the golden basket. Vinyl records.
Yeah, well, in actual fact, you've got to understand that certain people will use vinyl records because it gives you the real hi-fi, right? So let's
the scratches and all that noise.
These tend to be people that have got a few bob, right?
But there's very few of them, David.
Yeah, I know that. Yes.
And they're generally your age. Yeah. And it's nostalgia.
But what that says to me is the figures are being gerrymandered to be low. And the Bank of England today gave them the two fingers and said, fuck off. They don't believe your figures.
Paul says he's got vinyl and Julie says she's got vinyl. It's not bad, but I don't have a fucking record player. They've been up a lot for years. Some of them might even be worth a few quid. I should go and have a look.
Oh dear.
I've got first edition UB40 albums and things like that up there.
Yeah.
I think they've even got a couple of albums up there where the vinyl was actually pictures made in, and they came in different colours as well.
That's right. That's right.
But it's listen, even if the youngsters are getting into vinyl, there's just not enough to influence the inflation.
The reason I mentioned it was to make a point.
That's right, that you can manipulate what's into that.
Manipulated, gerrymandered, using these items that are pulled out of a list. Oh, what about this? What about cocoa? Shall we have a go at that one? You know, it beggars belief that anybody is getting caught, you know. But
when we were going through the list of what's in the basket yesterday, I mean, one of the things that was really impressive was in that basket was olive oil up 38.9%. Wow.
Yeah.
You know, and they never mentioned potatoes or rice or fucking flour.
Yeah, if you imagine, it's like your typical family when they go out shopping. It's like
thanks, I really appreciate it. You're late, not accept. Oh, the 20 quid lets you have to not accept me.
They're buying rice and things like that, right? and you know what, and the staple that goes with that, you know, is generally some kind of beef or meat or whatever, right, or pork. And it's just not in there, right?
Apparently, I've got a gramophone, for Christ's sake. I'm on that at one point.
Do you know I can believe that? Anyway, right.
Madam Director says we're showing our age here, David. Right, let's move on because we've got 10 minutes left. Owen Jones quits the Labour Party to join We Deserve Better. Somebody else is getting a free pass for a naughty step. Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you, Lauren. That's wonderful.
A free pass. Next time you leave, you get a free pass.
All you want is go to good causes, and at the moment, you know, people are hurting, and we can see it. You know,
right, people are hurting. Let's get back to Owen Jones.
Right.
He's left the Labour Party to join a pressure group called We Deserve Better.
Yeah.
And he cites his reasons for leaving being principled reasons. The Thatcherites now running the Labour Party and the genocide in Gaza. You know.
So, he is a very principled man. He's a guy that I've respected him for a long, long time, even when he was part of Labour. Because some of the stuff that he was coming out with took him on this journey to eventually win stuff that I don't want anything to do with Labour, right?
Anyway, you can only explain the video he lets out today that they intend to use tactics to get rid of some of the Thatcherites in the Labour front bench. So they're going to stand a candidate against Rachel Reeves.
Yep.
They're going to stand a candidate against David Lammy.
Yep.
They're going to stand a candidate against Wes Streeton, who intends to privatise what's left of NHS England.
Yep. And
he's made no secret of it.
Yep.
And I have to say that the group that he's joined is going to raise funds to finance green candidates and independent candidates and strategic Labour seats to try and get rid of the Starmerites and the Thatcherites out of the Labour Party.
Yeah.
It's a big blow to Labour to have a real far left-wing commentator who's as well known as him quit the party.
Well, it's possible that this could actually grow arms and legs, because we've always wondered in the past about what would happen if it was all independents that got women elected into the House of Commons. My goodness me, what a picture that would be.
Well, it'd be bloody chaos to form a government.
Correct.
But I agree that they do need more choice in England.
Yeah.
Because they don't have an alternative to the two cheeks of the same arse.
Yeah, exactly.
And this particular reincarnation of the Labour Party is definitely conservative.
Yeah. And plus the fact, if you look at the other one, the Lib Dems, you know, Lib Dems put up for their MPs and all the rest of it, right? But what they do is they sit there and wait for somebody to come and offer them a deal, which they take, you know, so they use their few MPs that they've had elected in. So if you vote Lib Dem, you're effectively voting for whoever wins the actual election and gets the keys to number 10 Downing Street.
Yes.
You know, so don't vote Lib Dem. Pointless. Absolutely pointless.
But what we are seeing is more and more left-wingers breaking away from the Labour Party and saying this is no the Labour Party that they know, they grew up with, that they recognise. But they've been saying that here in Scotland for years. They've been saying, I didn't know the Labour Party left me.
Yeah.
That's been the mantra here in Scotland for years.
Yeah.
And I have to say that anybody doing that road that's expecting a change, with a change of government, when you've only got two cheeks of the same arse to choose for. Now, it's pointed out that the party that to vote for here in Scotland is SNP, but that's if you're a pro-independent supporter. There are other parties that suit non-independent supporters, although they're becoming a bit light in the ground because things are looking absolutely terrible out there.
There's another one, Dodger 37, £10. Thank you, Dodger.
That'll pop up here in a second. There it's there. Thanks, Dodger. Now, the other thing, talk about which, see Leo Varadkar. Somebody asked me my opinion on Leo Varadkar stepping down. I don't have an opinion on it. I'll report on the fact that he stood down for what he's calling personal and political reasons. Personally, I think it's because he's going to lose his bloody seat. Or his party's going to lose to Sinn Féin in the next election. But ask for an opinion on it. I don't have one. It doesn't affect me, it's an island.
Yeah.
You know, right. So Owen Jones is a big blow for Starmer to walk away from the Labour Party. He's a well-known left-wing commentator, and the left wing is fleeing Labour at a rapid rate of knots, and I can see that happening. Hi, Gingers, naughty step. Hey, what do you call it? I can see this. I can see that affecting the outcome of this election. I don't think this election is going to be as much of a landslide as people think it is, because Starmer's doing his very best to lose it. And as I say, if the Tories, they hang on to a November, December election, or even a late October election, and give him a chance for an autumn statement to throw in more cuts and bake in more cuts to the budgets going forward, like another 2% giveaway in national insurance, that will take the baked in cuts to 27 billion quid. Labour can't get round that. No without taxing the rich, and they've already said they're not going to.
I love the of it. At the moment, it's doing that, and it becomes alarming. You know, at the end of the day, right?
And Rachel Reeves has pointed out that you know, she's actually thinking that we give more tax cuts to the rich, in the hope that trickle down would move, and that would happen as they would invest more in the economy. Nobody's investing in this economy because there's nowhere to grow it to. Nobody. But we better move on, David. We're running out of time, and we want to have a quick word about Israel, Gaza, and the Ukraine.
Yeah. Okay, so effectively, let's do Ukraine. Let's do Ukraine, right?
Maybe I get the headlines up in Ukraine, will you?
Yeah, Putin has been re-elected. Why did they bother? You know, why bother? When you go to the polling station, you see Putin. So who'd I vote for? Right, there you go. Right. The situation at the moment with Ukraine is that there are certain sections, if you like, Crimea and Donetsk, where Putin is saying if he ends up losing those, that's it. It's all out nuclear waste, right? We know that there was a deal on the table between Ukraine and Russia before all of this kicked off, before Boris was thrown in to make what's the guy's name? What's the Premier of Ukraine called again, David? What's his name?
Zelensky.
Zelensky, aye. We know that there was a deal on the table between Putin and Zelensky, and it was ready to go, and it basically handed over those two. We know that the people in Crimea largely wanted to be part of Russia. We know the people in Donetsk largely wanted to be part of Russia, so therefore there was no problem with it.
Gordon, you are a naughty boy. You are a naughty boy. The Russians had as much choice in the election as the English do in theirs. Gordon, you're a very naughty boy.
Yeah.
But I'll forgive you, and you're not going to naughty step this time.
When you look at it, it's like I can't say that I agree with like Putin. Just the whole setup with Putin, right? Because he is bad, right? But we know that a deal is on the table there, and providing Zelensky gets in and actually and it's over. Yeah.
Aye. Sarah's hinting that it's getting near 5 o'clock. She's in the dug in to go up his nut.
Right. Now,
Right, let's catch the headlines for Ukraine, then we'll move on to what's happening in Gaza. Okay, so Putin hails a Crimea annexation after election win. As you heard, he claimed that the Donbass and Crimea want to be part of Russia, and he was only liberating them. EU capped Ukrainian imports to quell protests. That's to do with the amount of grain coming in for Ukraine. And Mayor Putin means Mayor war, according to Zelensky. Now let's move on to Israel and Gaza. As we know, David, Canada has now banned the sales of arms to Israel. Europe has now come out and said that Israel is deliberately causing a famine in Gaza. Yeah. So basically the tide's starting to turn, and the UK, Australia and the US are becoming more and more isolated in this one.
Yeah, well, I think Justin Trudeau's arsehole was twitching over that one, wasn't it? Yeah.
Well, he's in a coalition. He's got a minority government. It was a coalition that forced the vote, and the Parliament voted to end arms sales and support for Israel. Simple as that.
Yeah.
You know.
So the thing is, though, we've got this happening, like in different governments around the world, where eventually they're having to accept the situation about Gaza and get on board with supporting that and calling for a ceasefire, total ceasefire, end to the IDF's action on Gaza, right?
But the
one that still won't do it is America.
Aye.
We need for America, never mind Blinken blooming jump to this place and that place and other. Oh, I'm just here to talk about this again, you know, when he lands in Syria or Lebanon or whatever, right? This is ridiculous. America is a terrorist state. Basically it is. It's become a terrorist state. Look at the number of countries that it has invaded over the past 20 years. And then look at how they've actually dealt with Gaza. They were asked for a ceasefire, and what they did was they vetoed it in the UN.
Let me address this one, David, before we move on. Tic-tac-toe, you hear me? You're just hearing from others as well. Tic-tac-toe, go form your own opinion. You don't want to listen to other opinions. Listen to others' opinions after you've read the legislation yourself. That's how to do it. Read it first, and then listen to what others have got to say about it. What you're doing is listening to the others and parroting what they're saying about it, without actually reading the legislation yourself. That's dangerous and it's stupid. Now, back to Israel and Gaza and the vetoes in the UN and all that. It's significant that the European Union have now coalesced around this idea that actually Israel is, at this point in time, committing a war crime. It's interesting that Canada has stopped selling weapons. We're seeing the SNP in Westminster bring this subject up to be shut down, because when they wanted to debate, when the speaker told them that they could have another debate on Gaza, they wanted to move it on to the UK's arms sales. And we get right down to it, David. When we get a look at what's going on in the Middle East, those of us who understand geopolitics understand that this is all about the Silk Road, a new Suez Canal, and oil and gas for Europe, as Europe has now cut itself off completely from Russian oil and gas.
So we've got a tug of war between the New World Order, as it used to be, and BRICS.
Aye, well, as you like to call them, the New World Order.
And as far as I remember, this year there's a further 26 countries going to join the BRICS alliance. And
this is an interesting point by Hashbury Stumbles. And you know what, Hashbury Stumbles, you're right. But the bit that's hidden in what you've got to say there, Hashbury Stumbles, and I was in Europe in the end of the fall of the Soviet Union. I was in the military at the time. The advice to the ex-Soviet bloc was form your own version of the NATO alliance to protect yourselves. And that was vetoed by the Yanks, basically. So NATO did move east. The advice for the UK High Command at the time to these ex-Soviet states was create your own alliance. It was the Yanks that didn't want to create their own alliance. The UK actually advised them at the time I was in the military to form their own military alliance to protect themselves against the former Soviet Union. And of course, American influence sort of went, no, you can join NATO. And slowly but surely they surrounded and cut off Russia. And that cut Europe off from the Russian oil and gas supply, which meant that Europe would become more reliant on LPG and oil and gas from America.
Yeah.
And the whole carry on the Middle East is about a second route to try and combat the Silk Route.
Yeah. The Silk Road ends up, the pipeline ends up in Syria. And a few days after the 7th of October, not reported or not reported widely, the Americans took that port apart.
Yes.
They bombed the hell out of it, right?
What's interesting about that is there's no Syrian ports left, there's no Jordanian ports left, there's no ports in Gaza operates except for one which is run by Israel.
Yeah.
There's no port along that coastline operates except for an Israeli port.
Yeah. So
and that's
you see what's coming down the line, guys?
This is all about control over resources, folks.
Yeah.
This is all about control over resources, and there's a battle going on between, as David says, what they used to call the New World Order being the West, and the New World Order, as David likes to call it, the BRICS.
Yeah.
And the BRICS are becoming hell of a strong, as they now control over 50% of the world's oil and gas supplies.
The problem we've got, guys, is that whilst we are part of the United Kingdom, we're in the blooming, we're in the target. Yeah. For the
environment.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's basically what's happening with Gaza and the slaughter that's going on in Gaza. The other thing that's not been reported is Biden's telling me to stay out of Rafah. He's getting into Rafah and there's a press silence on it. He also Netanyahu also claimed he wasn't targeting a health infrastructure. Actually, he just attacked the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza. Wow. You know, people are not going to continue to turn a blind eye, and people power is working. Well done to the people at Press Week, and I support the idea that nobody here in Scotland working in any airport or any port handles any goods from or to Israel. Yeah. People power works.
Yeah. Well, guys, that's
a good point. The petrodollar is now up against the new gold standard digital currency being created by the BRICS.
Yeah.
Now, folks, need to round this up because I'm going to work in exactly 52 minutes. So, great viewing figures today. At the top, peak viewing figures was 248. We're at 227 watching us now. That's absolutely excellent. David and I hope you found today's programme entertaining and informative. And people, don't be rude when people don't understand a piece of legislation. Just be rude whatever else you want. Well, as I say, and it's good to have you back, David. It's nice to get a springboard and start to bounce back after each other again.
But what's going to happen now is I shall pick up on all these items today and build on it, because it's just a case of getting my head back under the bonnet of the car, you know what I mean? So,
Madam Director says we've to get bloody off. But David, you've been out the game for a while because you have been medicated out to the point of beyond understanding. If you'd have been down the rabbit hole with all that crap and you'd never have come back out again.
See, morphine's great, I tell you, honestly.
Right, David, hopefully I'll have you with me on Saturday at 12 o'clock, but if you can't make it, let me know.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to do that on Saturday.
You'll definitely be back with me at 2 o'clock Monday, is that correct?
Yeah. It's just, it depends on what they do to me on Friday. Going back down for, check up, get this redress, all the rest of it right. And it's like, that's the time that you go, ooh, ouch. So there you go.
Right. Okay, now folks, thanks very much for your super chats today. And thanks very much for viewing. As I say, we hope you found it interesting, we hope you found it informative, and we also hope you found it entertaining.
Yes.
Because to listen to two old twats like us for an hour, it's going to be entertaining. So, right, that always one thing left to say, and that's bye, Davey.
Maybe it's like the two old guys at the Muppet Show. That, oh, that was pretty good. Oh, no, I didn't think that. Oh, it was pretty rubbish, actually. That's what.
There just leaves one thing left to say, and that's bye, Davey.
Bye, Davey. That's great. Bye, guys.